welcome to lesson 9b. I've been afraid of it for years. In this lesson, you are going to study about present perfect with for and since. In vocabulary, we're going to learn some kind of phobias and words related to fear, okay? And in pronunciation, we're going to practice some sentence stress. Are you ready to start? Let's go. Vocab. Phobias and words related to fear. To start, we are going to take a look at the picture we have up here. How many things can you see that some people have a phobia of? So here, this is the picture. We have many different kind of fears and phobias that people usually have. For example, afraid of flying, right? Afraid of speaking in public, bats, heights, snakes, so elevators, clowns. Can you see any other kind of fears people usually have? Great, there are lots of them. And here are the examples that we have, okay? Great. Okay, so now in letter B, we are going to look at the names of five phobias. You are going to match them to explanations A through E. We have here some kind of phobias like acrophobia, agoraphobia, glossophobia, claustrophobia, arachnophobia. Okay, read these texts here and see which of the five phobias is being described. Pause the video and do it. Great, let's then check your answers. This is the order of phobias we have. Excellent, okay? So now you are going to activity C. Read the explanations again, finding a text. In 1, the noun made from the adjective afraid. 2, an adjective that means very afraid. And in 3, 2 synonyms for afraid. Okay, let's check your answers. These are the answers. Okay, so the words fear, terrified, frightened, and scared are also words related to fear. Okay, great. Now, number 2. In activity A, listen to 3 people talking about their phobias. Answer question 1 for each person. So in this first part of the activity, you will listen to 3 people talking about their phobias, okay? You are going to answer only about question number 1. So let's find out what kind of phobia they have, okay? We don't need to do 2 and 3 at this stage of the activity, okay? We are going to do this afterwards. Let's go.
4.20. 1.
Do you have any phobias?
Yes, I'm terrified of bats.
Really? How long have you had the phobia?
I've had it for about 40 years, since I was 12 years old. At my school, we had a swimming pool, and the changing rooms were in an old building near the pool. On the first day at school, our teacher told us that there were bats in there and that we shouldn't move around too much because they might start flying around and get into our hair. She also said we shouldn't turn the lights on because this would wake up the bats. We had to change as quickly and quietly as possible.
Did a bat ever fly into your hair?
No, nothing ever happened, but I was terrified just at the thought of it.
Does it affect your life at all?
Yes, I often feel very nervous or start to panic if I'm outside when it's beginning to get dark, which is when bats appear. If I'm sitting in my yard in the evening, I always have a tennis racket, so if a bat flies near me, I can protect myself. And I can't watch a TV documentary about bats or even look at them in photos.
2,
Do you have any phobias?
Yes, I get very bad claustrophobia.
How long have you had the phobia?
It just started one morning about 10 years ago. I was going to work on the train, and it was very crowded. I started thinking that if there were an accident, I'd never get out. I had a panic attack, and I sort of felt my heart beating very quickly. I had to get off the train.
How does your phobia affect your life?
Well, I can't travel on crowded trains. I never ever travel on the subway because my worst nightmare would be if the train stopped in the tunnel. I also try to avoid elevators. What else? Oh, yes. If I'm flying, I have to have an aisle seat. I can't sit by the window.
3,
Do you have any phobias?
Yes, I have a pretty unusual phobia. I'm scared of clowns.
Clowns? Really? How long have you had it?
I've had it for a long time, since I was a child.
How did it start?
Well, I remember I went on a school trip to the circus when I was 6 or 7 years old, and there were clowns. I thought they were sort of stupid, but I wasn't really afraid of them. Then I went to a birthday party and there were clowns, and they were showing us how to paint our faces. And I found I didn't like being near them. At first I just didn't like them. But over the years my feelings have changed to fear.
Does your phobia affect your life at all?
Not really, because luckily I don't see clowns very often.
Very well. So these are the three people stating about their phobias, okay? Now, let's check your answers. Listen again if necessary before you check your answers, okay? Here. These are their fears, okay? So 1 is afraid of bats. 2 is, number 2 has claustrophobia. And number 3 is afraid of clowns, okay? Great. Now you will listen again to the audio, and this time you're going to answer questions 2 and then 3. Which person do you think is most affected by his or her phobia? So let's go. Pause the video or get back to the audio, listen again and write down. Okay, let's check your answers. So these are the answers, okay? Fantastic. Now, let's move on to C. You are going to think of these questions here and talk about your phobias, all right? Write down if necessary. Great. Moving on to next page, page 71 now. We are going to study some grammar. Present perfect with for and since. So in activity A, look at this extract from the first interview in 2. Answer the questions. So here we have, how long have you had this phobia? I've had it for about 40 years, since I was 12 years old. So here you are going to pause and you are going to answer these questions about it. All right, you finished? Let's then check your answers. These are the answers. Okay, great. So as we can see, in number 4, we are going to use for when we are talking about a period of time, duration of time. We are going to use since with a point in time. So for example, when I want to say when I started doing the action, or when something is started, is the starting point, okay? you are going to use since. Nice. Let's go together to page 142 so we can learn more about present perfect, for, and since. Let's start. So here we have some examples for the present perfect. Let's listen to them and repeat.
4.21.
Where do you live now?
In Tokyo.
How long have you lived there?
I've lived there for 20 years.
Where do you work?
In an elementary school.
How long have you worked there?
I've worked there since 2005.
That's great. Okay, so let's see what we can review about present perfect. Então vamos lá, fazendo uma revisãozinha breve, né, sobre o present perfect. Nós já vimos que nós usamos o present perfect, né, especialmente agora então com o for e o since para falar sobre ações que começaram, né, ações e também estados, né, que começaram no passado e que ainda são verdadeiras hoje, né? Então estão ainda influenciando o meu presente, tá? Então aqui nos exemplos, I've lived in Tokyo for 20 years, né? Então quando eu uso aqui o for, eu estou indicando então ó, que eu vim, né? I came to live in Tokyo 20 years ago. Eu vim para morar em Tóquio 20 anos atrás e que eu ainda moro em Tóquio. Tá? I've lived in Tokyo for 20 years. Nós não usamos o simple present nesse tipo de frase, jamais, tá? Present perfect, tá? Então nós vamos usar how long, tanto para state verbs, né, os verbos de estado, como para os verbos de ação, ok? E aqui, para a gente diferenciar o for e o since, nós vamos usar então o for para indicar período, né, assim, uma duração de tempo. Então, por tanto tempo, for 2 weeks, for 10 years, for a long time. I've had this car for 3 months, né? Alguns exemplos. Já o since, que significa desde, nós vamos usar então para falar sobre o início, né, de um período de tempo, quando a gente começou, quando uma atividade iniciou, né, se deu início. Então, since 1980, since last June, né, um exemplo aqui, I've been afraid of spiders since I was a child, né, então eu tenho tido medo de aranha desde que eu era criança. That's very simple, okay? Now, let's go to next page, page 143, and do these exercises. In letter A, you will write questions with how long and the present perfect. So, for example, you be married. How long have you been married? Remember that we need to use have as the auxiliary verb when we are asking questions using the present perfect tense, okay? So pause the video and do it. Okay, let's then check your answers now. Excellent. In activity B, answer the questions in A. Use the present perfect plus for or since, like in the example. I've been married for 20 years because here we have the duration of time. Okay? Pause the video and answer. Great. So let's see some possible answers here. Great. Fantastic. All right, so now let's move back to page 71 and continue. Now, we have this exercise here in C. Okay, still talking about the grammar activity. You will listen and say the phrases with for or since. So, for example, if you hear 1984, you need to use since 1984. You ready? Let's go.
4.22. 1,
1984. Since 1984.
2, 5 months. 4 5 months. 3,
3 weeks. 3 weeks.
4, last week. 'Since last week. 5,
Yesterday morning. Since yesterday morning.
6, 20 minutes. 20 minutes. 7,
I was a child. Since I was a child.
8, 2010. 2010.
Okay, great. So now let's move on to pronunciation, sentence phrase. So you are going to listen and repeat these phrases here. And remember to copy the rhythm. Let's go.
4.23. 1,
For 10 years. Worked here for 10 years. I've worked here for 10 years.
2,
Since 2002. Lived here since 2002. We've lived here since 2002.
3,
Known him. Have you known him? How long have you known him?
Okay, listen again, practice again if necessary. Wonderful. So now you will listen to 5 sentences and you need to write them down, okay? Let's go.
4.24. 1,
How long have you worked here?
2, they've been married for 20 years. 3,
She hasn't traveled by plane since 2005.
4, how long has he lived in Thailand? 5,
We've known them for a long time.
'Great. Okay, so listen again if necessary. And now let's check your answers. Now let's try listening to these sentences once again. And this time you are going to try to copy the rhythm. Repeat them, copy the rhythm, okay? Great. Let's go speaking. Look at the questions below. What 2 tenses are they? What are the missing words? Okay, so now Let's take a look at them and answer. What two tenses are they? What are the missing words? Okay, let's take a look at them. So the tenses we're using here are the simple present tense and also the present perfect tense. Okay, and the words that are missing here, for example, here, have a pet. Do you have a pet? How long have you had it? Right? So here we have a simple present question that where we need to use do or does, and also we can use the verb to be, correct? Since the questions are for a person, we can use do you or are you. In the questions with how long, here we are using present perfect tense. And because of that, we are going to use the auxiliary verb have. How long have you had it? All right. So now you can write these questions in full in your notebook. And afterwards, you can write your answers to these questions, okay? Great. Now, moving on to the next practice here in reading, we have this activity. Do you know of any kinds of treatment for people who have phobias? Yes, no. B. Read the text and mark the sentences true or false. So here now, we are going to read this text here about scared of spiders. Take this pill. It seems to be about a medicine that you can take to treat your phobias. All right. You are going to read it and then write true or false for the sentences. Pause the video and do it. All right, so let's then now check your answers. Wonderful, very good. So here, this is the last activity here. We have here C. You are going to check look up the dictionary for these words that are highlighted. Okay, check their meanings. And you can answer these questions here. What stages of exposure therapy do you think could be used for someone with arachnophobia and claustrophobia? This is your personal answer, okay? Great, great. So now we are going to the workbook and do some activities here, okay? These are pages 58 and 59. I'm going to play this listening activity so you can do this exercise alongside, of course, with the other activities, okay? Let's go.
File 9B, Listening.
Hello, and welcome to the program. Today, we have psychologist Dr. Chris Hopper in the studio with us to answer your questions about phobias. Hello, Chris.
Good morning.
And our first caller is Cynthia Sharp from San Diego. What's your question, Cynthia?
Hello, Dr. Hopper. My question is actually about my son, James. He's 6 years old, and he had a bad experience with a dog last night.
I'm sorry to hear that, Cynthia. What exactly happened?
Well, we were outside a neighbor's house, and I was talking with the mom when one of her dogs ran out. It was a big dog, and it came running out of the house, barking. James panicked and tried to hide behind me, but the dog jumped on him and bit him. It wasn't a serious injury, but we're very worried that he'll be afraid of dogs now. We don't want him to get a phobia. What should we do?
Well, Cynthia, you're right to be worried about this incident because cynophobia, that is, a fear of dogs, is often caused by a bad experience with a dog as a child. The best thing you can do is to give your son a positive experience with a different dog as soon as possible. If you have any friends who have a quiet and friendly dog, go and visit them. Let your son touch the dog if he wants to, and don't remind him about his bad experience.
That sounds like good advice, Chris. And our next caller is Natalie Williams from Seattle. Natalie?
Great. You can listen to it again and check your answers, okay? So thank you. That's it for today. And see you next video. Bye-bye.